welcome to episode 5 of the Small Business Big Presence Show. We are your hosts, Madison Black
and Rory Manatunga.
And today we're diving into stage 3 of the Facebook page growth loop. We've done the first 2 stages in the last couple of episodes, and today we're going to be teaching you how to interact with your audience to build reach and community.
Now, remind me, Maddie, what the 4 stages of the growth loop are.
I'm more than happy to, Ross. So the 4 stages, we've got inspiration, where we're going out and figuring out who our ideal customer are and who our competitors are. Mm-hmm. We then have our creation stage, where we're going to actually start creating posts and figuring out what post types are best suited to our audience. Mm-hmm. Today we're talking about interaction, which is how we're going to build engagement with our community.
Still disappointed I didn't get to coin that term.
Yeah, absolutely didn't. Well, listen, it can be a bit of both, but we'll get into that. And then next week we're going to be diving into stage 4, which is evaluation, to make sure that what actions you're taking on your Facebook page are actually the right actions that your audience and Facebook want to see.
Awesome. Closing off the loop.
Getting close. Getting so close. Okay. So, stage 3. So there's 3 major things that we want to cover today for stage 3 interaction to help you understand what kind of interaction you actually want to be doing on your page. So, Ross, do you want to kick us off with the first, we've got lots of 3s today. It's like an angel number day. So, do you want to kick us off with what we don't, I suppose there's 3 kind of ways that we see pages being used by small businesses at the moment.
So obviously the 3 that Maddie has mentioned is your Facebook page is either a megaphone, a notice board, or a community. And now we want everyone to move towards a community for a number of reasons. First and foremost, that is the direction that Facebook is going. If you are moving your page towards a community-focused space, digital presence, that is what Facebook is going to reward, and that is what their ethos, their company values are all about at the moment, especially reinforced after their January changes. So we want to move away from the megaphones, which is...
Well, let's talk about what each of them are.
Let's dive into them. So,
as you said, community is what we want, right?
Yeah.
And community is really about generating conversation. And you said this in a previous episode, conversation's 2-way.
Yeah.
So it has to be that your customers or your followers are interacting and delivering value to your page as much as you are, or maybe not as much, maybe it's not a 50-50 relationship, but you want to be getting that back and forward happening.
So should we touch on the 2, the megaphone and the notice board, exactly what they are, just in case, just to give examples, and this is stuff, remember guys, to avoid or limit. Like sometimes it's good to have a notice on Facebook, on your Facebook page, say like a weather notice, a closure notice. But
let's talk about what they are before we dive into that, because so let's talk about being a megaphone. I see this quite a lot. The way I envisage what a megaphone page is doing is that they're kind of like that dirty spruiker in front of the jewelry shop on the street.
And there's
we've got some beautiful gold watches. Lady, man, that look beautiful on you.
Surely that'd be in America too, North America.
Surely. I mean, we've seen it a lot in Australia, and it always seems to be jewellery stores that are the ones who are doing it.
I saw sometimes in Melbourne there'd be like the dollar stores, but
there you go. Well, and it was always the case that they had one of those microphones that was really poor quality, so it was like cracking,
attached to their hip and
it's so bad. But
legends.
I just don't see the spruiking in that way, being a megaphone, working for even in the traditional sense of that person standing on the corner of a shop. It's begging for sales basically. And so if you are running a megaphone page, you're most likely just throwing information onto the page, just posting about how people can spend money with you. You haven't generated any know, like, and trust.
Exactly, and it's like a megaphone is one way. No one else has a megaphone, or they have their own megaphone talking about their own stuff. So it's a one-way conversation, which again, community is a 2-way conversation, 2-way street.
Absolutely, and that's not to say that there isn't a time and place on your page to be talking about what offers you have or to be putting promotions out. It's just that you don't want that to be the primary focus. And in fact, you probably don't even want that to be 10% of what you do on your page.
Yeah, exactly.
Truthfully. So then the second version is a notice board. And this is where, again, I see this with some pages that generally don't have very many followers. They generally tend to be local businesses where they're kind of saying, hey guys, we're open, or so-and-so's back from maternity leave, or, it's just a lot of notices.
Yeah. And typically it's categorized by not having a consistent posting either. It's not like it's notices every day. That's not ideal either. But it's often like you'll go to their page, there'll be one from 2 weeks ago about like a snow warning, and then there'll be one from about 3 months ago with the same warning or something similar.
Exactly. So you don't, and again, your page is a great place to be keeping your customers up to date. So if you do have a notice to put out that you'd like to help keep your followers, engaged or understanding of what's going on in your business, sure, Facebook could be a way to do that. However, you've also got to think about, as we've spoken about in our previous episodes, that the value of that post is very unlikely to get interaction. People might like it or might ask a follow-up question, but truthfully, it's very unlikely that they're going to do very much reacting, commenting or sharing of that post, which is going to drag down your average, and Facebook is going to devalue your posts in the newsfeed, even if it's just a slight bit. So do also think about, is Facebook the best medium for you to be delivering that information to your audience?
Yeah, and if they're like, I think in some places like a snow warning, as long as it's not in isolation, not the only sort of post on your page, is really good, and there's a way that you can do it to make it engaging as well.
Absolutely. You might take a little boomerang or a video.
Boomerang video.
Yeah.
Good old boomy.
Love a boomy. I do. At least I know how to do them. At Christmas, Rory tried to take some boomies of me getting freezing cold in the snow doing snow angels and didn't know that he had to hit save.
A couple of Aussies in the snow, eh?
Ah, goodness me. So that's why we reiterate that you absolutely want to be running a community type of page where, again, your posts are aimed at generating conversation, two-way conversation between you and the people who are viewing it, your customers, your followers. And again, if there's opportunity for you to be using a megaphone or notice board strategy very limitedly, if that's a word, in a very limited capacity on your page, then, go for it. But really be thinking always, how engaging is this going to be for my followers?
Yeah, exactly. And how can I make it more engaging?
Absolutely. So once you've started to get an idea that your page is focused around a community, you then want to maybe start thinking about your voice. How are you going to come across to your audience?
Yeah, so could you just explain what your voice would be, like how it would come across, or how, can you just break it down what your vision of a voice is on a digital platform? Absolutely.
I think that the biggest thing is you don't want to come across sounding kind of robotic or formal. Again, though, this is very dependent upon your business. Some businesses, the audience that they're attracting are very formal. Perhaps you're a law firm or something like that. However, generally, people are on Facebook for entertainment. So let's also remember that even if you have a fairly formalized business model, that's not to say you can't be a little bit more informal in the way that you interact with people. What I often suggest is that people use, when they type out the posts that they're writing, they're using words and kind of writing them as if they would say them.
And often you get me, or you say them out loud as well, because that'll get those cogs moving in your brain to say, okay, I would actually say this, or
I would never say that.
Jolly, tally-o.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great little bonus tip for today's episode, to say everything that you write, you should absolutely read out loud. And poor Rory, he hates it when I tell him that he should read it out loud, because he often, and I do the same to you, I'm sure, where I'm like, can you just read this? And have you read it out loud? No. So definitely read your posts out loud. It might seem really silly, but you will definitely find where you've maybe become a little too formal. And part of that is that you might be using vocabulary, which is maybe even too big a word for this episode, not because people won't understand, but because, again, we want to use words that we would normally.
Yeah.
You want to use words that are simple. You don't want to be using complex, convoluted, big words. Again, not because you're treating your audience like they're stupid, but because is that really how they like to interact? Yeah,
exactly. And even in a very formal setting, that still has its place that you call it simply. Because at the end of the day, you're not in a board meeting. The people who are viewing your content are most likely trying to escape from the board meeting. Like, they're trying to put it behind them. They're trying to chill out, entertain, and maybe get a bit of knowledge on the side as well.
Absolutely. And like we featured in episode 2 as a page to watch, Harriet Lerner's page. So she is a great example of where this rule maybe doesn't apply so much, because she's speaking about a lot of psychological terms to her audience. Her audience eat up her posts, but they want that level of like deepness and richness to her post. They want it to be something that sparks them to think differently about their lives. So again, read your audience and figure out what they want. This might not be a hard and fast rule for your page, but you do need to be having that conversation with yourself as to, okay, what kind of voice do my audience want to be hearing from me? And the final thing I would say around your voice is to really think about using your non-verbal or non-written communication on Facebook.
Okay, buzzer.
What? So I'm talking emojis and GIFs. These are so well utilised these days by some people. And it really is a great way to take what can otherwise maybe, especially when you're just working in text, you know, text can be misconstrued to, there's no tone, there's no way to convey, verbal cues or physical cues, which if we talk about communication as on a whole, I'm going to mess up the stats and I should have written them down, but I think it's only 7% of the words that we say are actually, are what people read, absorb. It's 93% is made up of the tonality that you use in your voice and your physical language. Yeah. So when you don't have those available to you on Facebook, use an emoji or a GIF. It's a great way to kind of get a little bit more deep on the emotion that you might be trying to convey.
Yeah, and especially the introduction of GIFs to the Facebook platform has been great to add a bit of humour, add a bit of, I guess, variety and vibrancy to the comments, and it opened up a whole field of different post types for us who are posting to our pages as well.
Absolutely, because I think too in the way that you interact, because so many GIFs are cultural references as well for shows, shows, movies, they're probably the two major ones that the GIFs are drawing from. But it also means you can build an additional connection with your audience if you're using a movie or a show that they're familiar with or they really love, and it's like, we love The American Office. So an example would be, you love The American Office? I love The American Office. How about that, Dwight? So definitely think about how in your interacting with your audience, you could be utilising emojis and GIFs. And just one further point to that, I would say, while some businesses may argue that using emojis or GIFs is a little inappropriate or too informal for their business,
I would say they're about 10 years out of date.
Agreed. Well, this is the thing. They've been around for such a long time. I would struggle to think of many people. I mean, I'm so impressed when I get emojis from your mum via text. Yeah. So, I don't think there's nothing generational about it. Everyone really knows how to use at least one or two.
It's non-verbal. People can make, it may not be the exact right one, but they can make an educated guess or a guesstimation, if you will.
Absolutely. So based on your business might determine how frequently you use them or how many of these non-verbal options you use, but don't discredit them just because you think you might have too formal of a business, because I promise you probably don't. And then the final thing we wanted to talk about, do you want to kick this on?
Yeah, so we want to touch on the topic, the broad topic, and I think it's something we'll definitely expand out into its own episode, but around consistency. So we want to be consistent with our interactions. So we don't want to ghost our page. And absolutely. Do you want to sort of explain what ghosting might look or feel like?
Well, so when we talk about interaction on a page, we're really talking about being sure that you interact with every single reaction, comment, or share that happens on your page. So you might be saying thanks for sharing, or, you know, asking follow-up questions to people, comments, that kind of thing. What you don't want to be doing is not doing that. You don't want to be just having a page where you put out a heap of information, people are giving you their time and their attention and reacting to you, for you to then just go, that's enough.
Probably the starkest of these examples is your review page on Facebook.
Especially for local businesses.
Yeah, too often those reviews go unanswered, good, bad, or in between. They're just unanswered, and that's not a good look for your business. So that's definitely an area where it's the starkest example of having that crucial consistency of posting and responding to them.
Well, especially when we talk about reviews too, because that's someone who's come and either had, like you said, a good, bad, or somewhere in between experience, and they want to share it to not only give other people the option to maybe make a different choice around your business, but also to give you feedback. And there's no point in getting all stroppy and upset about it, because it's best that you have that feedback. If you didn't, you may not know how to improve things.
Yeah.
So you want to be reacting.
Some of the best pages who do that with their reviews you get the most value from the 1-star reviews, but then you can see that the business has responded, and often it's like this person has never been to our facilities, unfortunately, but it's if they're responding, you say, okay, respect.
Absolutely. I know someone that we looked into in the first episode was Starbucks, and they do this brilliantly. Like, they interact with, for such a big business and for such a huge page, they interact with just about every single comment, post, review, anything that anyone comes back and has something to say on their page. And if even in a comment someone was saying, oh, I didn't really like this drink, they're offering like $3 and $4 vouchers so that people can go and re-enter the store, have a new experience. They're already feeling a little bit happy that their comment, you know, was just heard and responded to. And that's not to say that every business should be going and giving away. I mean, this is a multinational business that has the capability to do that kind of thing. But what I want to illustrate is they care about their customers. You can see that from the way that they interact with them on Facebook.
You can see and feel it, and especially in the modern age, people just want to be heard more than anything.
Yes. And so again, talking briefly about Harriet Lerner, who we featured on episode 2, she's an example of someone who doesn't respond to comments, but as we spoke about in that episode, it's kind of because what she's talking about is so controversial a lot of the time that she actually is encouraging of other people on the page generating the conversation. Yeah. So while I definitely think if it works for your page that you should be doing some reacting, some interacting with people, responding to comments, that kind of thing, definitely also encourage like followers on the page to be helping one another.
Exactly, and I think that's the key there for Harriet Lerner's page, and I would say that in the rare 5% where that interaction isn't warranted from yourself as the business owner, but like you said, there's still interaction on the page because she's growing a community where it's safe to interact and comment on each other's comments and such. I
feel like that's like the holy grail of interaction. If you start getting people who feel so connected to your message that they realise that they're connecting to one another.
Raving fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to recap, you want to make sure that you have a community page rather than a notice board or a megaphone. You want to be making sure that you're honing your voice so that the people you're speaking to can really connect with you on a deeper emotional level. And you want to be making sure that you're consistently interacting with reactions, comments, and shares on your page and reviews, to your point, so that your customers feel the caring nature of your business. So now it's time to make it real, because let's be honest, if you're just listening to this episode and not actually implementing these tips and tricks in your business, you're not going to get the increased reach and community building goodness that you could be for your Facebook page. So today we've put together a interaction daily checklist for you to start using in your business on a daily basis so that you know exactly how, where, and what you should be interacting with in order to boost that reach and really generate that engaged audience. You can go and grab that at bigpresentshow.com/interact.
that's all for episode 5 of the Small Business Big Presence show.
Be sure to tune in next week when we wrap up the Facebook page growth loop with step 4, evaluation, where we're going to help you build a consistent evaluation routine in your business to make sure that what you're posting is the actual right stuff for your page.
Until then, keep creating big impact in your small business with your big presence.
Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Remember, 62% of consumers use Facebook to help inform their buying decisions. Don't let your Facebook page stop one of your customers from investing in your small business. Get the lowdown on the 4-step system we teach our students to help transform their pages and turn presence into profit. And to be the first notified when we drop a new episode, be sure to subscribe to the show. Head on over to bigpresenceshow.com/subscribe to get started.